From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Can goobers be grown further north?
I'm Charles Denny. Could peanuts be a new ag crop for producers here in Tennessee? We'll show you an experimental crop grown here in Jackson. That story coming up on AgDay.
Cattle producers taking on the big packers.
We're doing something together we can't do by ourselves.
We'll check in on progress on a new independent beef processing plant as USDA drops a market mover of a report.
This report may be enough to scare them right back into a little bit of a net long position.
Sending soybeans soaring. We have a complete breakdown of the latest numbers right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the testing grounds meet the proving grounds. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. As harvest picks up pace, USDA is making cuts to its yield predictions. The latest supply-demand numbers a little lower than the trade was predicting. Let's get straight to the latest numbers. It's now calling for corn yields of 173 bushels to the acre, cutting production down by 70 million bushels from last month. As for soybeans, now at 49.6 bushels to the acre, down half a bushel from the September forecast, cutting production by 42 million bushels. We'll check ending stocks now. Corn lowered 110 million bushels to 2.1 billion bushels. USDA also making a 25 million bushel cut to exports. Meanwhile, soybean exports are also reduced, but ending stocks are unchanged from last month at 220 million bushels. For wheat, ending stocks are up 55 million bushels to 670 million. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us with a deeper dive into these numbers. And Michelle, those new yield predictions sent corn and soybeans soaring.
Yeah, that was part of it, but USDA also cut U.S. ending stocks on corn more than expected and left soybean carryout unchanged when the trade was expecting an increase. But market analysts say the big shock in soybeans came from the cut in global stocks. The soybean market scored a victory as USDA lowered yield and production, and even with a drop in exports, they left ending stocks unchanged. The trade was expecting an increase after the higher quarterly stocks on September 30th. The trade is also anticipating lower yield moving forward. However, the bigger bullish surprise was global ending stocks were cut 3.6 million metric tons.
Yield was lower than the trade is anticipating. The ending stocks are lower than anticipating. And you're right, though. The world number, I think, is the biggest surprise. To see that big of a drop, a revision in the world number, I think definitely got the trade's attention coming into the report. Coming into this report, Michelle, there was talk that the funds are actually short beans. This report may be enough to scare them right back into a little bit of a net long position.
On corn, USDA again lowered yield and production, but also cut exports. However, they lowered ending stocks 110 million bushels due to the lower carry-in from the quarterly stocks. And just like on beans, the trade is expecting further yield cuts. That's positive, but McCormick says a carryover above 2 billion is still a headwind.
Beans, when they get a little bit smaller in October, the history does work in the favor that the crop will get a little bit smaller down the line in November, then again in January. But unfortunately, unless we see an uptick in exports, there's a very good likelihood that they will offset maybe some of that production losses anticipated down the line with demand cuts. So the balance sheet overall, Michelle, I'd say is going to stay relatively cumbersome around this 2.1, 2.15 carryout number.
The WASDE was bearish for wheat with the 55 million bushel increase in U.S. ending stocks, and USDA only lowered global stocks 500,000 metric tons. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. While harvest picks up pace, drought may be finally loosening its grip on the country just a little. The latest drought monitor now showing just over 40% of the country is in drought. Now, that is only down slightly from a week ago, but a strong cold front last week helped to bring rain across the Great Plains, Ozarks, and western Gulf Coast. Some areas of southern Arkansas, northwestern Louisiana, and parts of Oklahoma and Texas saw more than 2 inches of precipitation. Rain also helped ease drought conditions in parts of Illinois on into Indiana and Michigan. But looking ahead, forecasters see little help for drought conditions. Portions of Colorado have seen drought this year, but This may start to erase that. The first heavy mountain snow of the season has arrived in the state. This was a scene yesterday morning near Loveland Pass. These aren't the first flakes to fall in the area. Some were spotted back in June at high altitudes and last month. But officials were telling people to make sure they were equipped with proper snow tires before heading out. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht joins us. And Matt, this is all part of that winter-type system pushing its way east right now.
Yeah, we're starting to get to that point of the year where it's not a rain system or a severe weather system. It's mixed precipitation type system. Some areas that seeing a rainfall, others, especially in the higher terrain, seeing snow, and possibly for the first time this year. That being said, there's two things that we're going to be watching with the precipitation forecast the next 7 days. One is that low pressure system going back to last week that we were talking about, bringing some substantial rainfall, about 1 to 2 inches of rainfall into Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, back off to the east. A good slug of moisture coming into the southeast as well. So again, this is going the next 7 days with some tropical moisture back into North and South Carolina. And then I also want to point your attention back to the top left corner of your screen. This is the next low pressure system. It's not as broad and the energy behind it isn't as strong as the system coming through right now, but it is worth noting that we're going to get kind of a shallow trough digging across the United States as we get into the weekend and next week. So that's kind of what's showing up there on that map. Let's go and take a look at your screen here. Beautiful shot. Come on, Indiana. Looks good. Drake sending this one in as that sun starts to go down. And check out that harvest shot. Drake sending this one in, capturing the moment, calling it a beautiful day at the office. That's for sure. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Following months of improving numbers, it appears cases of avian flu are back on the rise. The latest outbreak in Minnesota. USDA saying it's confirmed HPAI in a commercial turkey flock in Meeker County, Minnesota. That operation has more than 140,000 birds. The poultry industry is now on alert as that's the fourth commercial turkey operation this month to report avian influenza. The other flocks were located in Gerald County, South Dakota, and 2 flocks in Sanpete County, Utah. All told, nearly 330,000 birds are impacted. Sales of E15 surged last summer. That's according to the latest data released by the Renewable Fuels Association. Take a look at this graphic of data from the Minnesota Department of Commerce. 15% ethanol sales were up 10% in the state compared to the summer of 2022. Volumes climbing to a fresh record high in August as gasoline prices increased. Now, E15 prices were roughly a 16-cent per gallon discount compared to regular unleaded. The Renewable Fuels Association continues to call on Congress to pass permanent year-round sales of E15 nationwide. Consumer price inflation increased more than expected last month. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says the consumer price index jumped 3.7% for the 12 months ending in September. That's slightly above economists' expectations. Now, they were expecting a 3.6% rise, which would have been a slight decline from August's 3.7% gain. Now, on a monthly basis, inflation rose 0.4%. Food prices increased by 0.2% for the third consecutive month. Grain surged following that latest USDA report, including a near 40-cent rally in soybeans. We'll talk market expectations coming up next. And later, a southern crop migrates north. We'll look at the latest research on growing peanuts in Tennessee, in the country. As we push through the 2023 harvest, we're getting a better look at the final dollar figures from 2022. The Economic Research Service putting it all on one graphic. It says U.S. farm operations reported record cash receipts of $555 billion from the sale of all commodities last year. Now, this beats the previous high from 2014 by just over 3%. Total cash receipts from crops came in at $288 billion, while all animal and animal products hit $267 billion, with operations selling meat animals reporting $121 billion in cash receipts. Now, that's 18% higher than the 20-year average. Farm operations with feed crops reporting $105 billion in cash sales, which is 53% above the average. And check out poultry and eggs at $80 billion, 67% above the average. Soybeans pushing way above $13 on Thursday after the release of the latest yield and production estimates from USDA. Could prices go even higher? Michelle Rook is back To discuss that in Markets Now.
Grains closed higher after the WSDA report. Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics, joining us. And Mike, soybeans led the charge, up almost 40 cents on the day yesterday. And, global stocks were the big story there, weren't they?
Yeah, they most certainly were. I mean, taking almost 4 million metric tons off of the ending stocks for the world and taking those stocks to use levels down closer to 30%, a full percentage point less versus the September number, Michelle. We're still above the 22-23 and the 21-22 numbers by a couple, 3 percentage points. But I think this is one of those markets where the trade, including me, was looking for maybe a yield increase in the United States. We not only did not get that, but then the USDA really moved around some numbers in some key importing countries. And so I'm really starting to wonder after the close and new monthly highs in the soybeans that if the wheat and the corn can join up with the beans, we may be able to make up that lost dollar or so that we took out of the bean price from the September 12th report to today's October 12th report. That's something that I think's on the table.
And the corn market, 110 million bushel drop in ending stocks, but we're still over 2 billion. That's a headwind here. So how much is that going to hold us back from maybe getting the lead month over $5?
Yeah, it keeps telling us that with the harvest still 2/3 to go, essentially, and no help really from the wheat market when it came to really breaking out technically. The corn is still a follower, and I think the biggest question, maybe the low-hanging fruit question that probably was answered in today's report, is the trade's probably going to buy beans and sell corn in reverse thrusters of what they've done this past 30 or so days.
Yeah. And we not necessarily a friendly report there. So how much of that was priced into the market already, though?
I think a great deal. I mean, we just come off new, fresh 2+ year lows. That 540 soft red wheat price really needs to hold here, though, having seen that big increase in the U.S. ending stocks on a bigger yield. So we had more production today. I didn't like seeing that. The world numbers were still very supportive, though, was still running a 9-year low on stocks to use ratios.
Thanks for joining us, Mike Zuzolo, Global Commodity Analytics. That's Markets Now, and we'll have more AgDay coming up.
The last couple of days, what we've been talking about is that trough of low pressure and the possible ridging out ahead of it. More importantly, it's the warm front that you can easily see this afternoon. Coming up for our Friday, parts of Cincinnati, Ohio, even Indiana, looking at temperatures surging into the upper 70s. But what goes up must also come down. That's right. Yeah, I heard you say it. No biggie. The pocket of cooler air and the cold front will start to push through Friday and into Saturday. And you can see how that cold air really digs not only to the east, but south as well. As for tomorrow morning, while we're not talking sub-freezing temperatures in Omaha or Tulsa, that is a 37-degree reading in the panhandle of Texas and even a little bit in the panhandle of Oklahoma, where those contours are more in the mid-30s. As far south, remember, Texas this summer was scorching. This is going to be the first real pocket of fall cold air moving in across the United States. With that cold front, we're also going to see high temperatures impacted as well. More of the 60s, possibly 70 degrees in Memphis, with that warm front starting to wash out. Now you can kind of see it in the Cincinnati, 68 degrees, and then lifting off to the east. What comes with that, anytime you have big shifts in the temperatures, you're going to have strong winds as well. So where those temperatures were in the 30s or even in the upper 70s and the 80s, that is going to be changing with some strong winds behind the cold front. Precipitation outlook, October 17th, October 21st. This entire week, the talk has been about the rain Friday, Saturday, and Sunday across the Midwest. We'll start to see some shallow ridging up across the United States, which should help dry things out, possibly get the farmers back in the fields if it is pretty muddy this weekend. Alpine, Texas, beautiful part of the state, to 79 degrees, low about 50 degrees. Got Elko, Nevada, partly cloudy, high around 64 degrees. And then Bel Air, Michigan, 54 degrees and cloudy.
Up next, checking in on a new beef processing plant in Nebraska. And later, we know about Georgia peanuts, but could this cash crop find a home in Tennessee? The latest research in the country. We've been keeping you updated on this, an effort by ranchers to build a big independent beef processing facility in North Platte, Nebraska. Now, a year after breaking ground, the $325 million project is taking shape. NTV's Steve White gives us an inside look.
The beef industry is heavily consolidated, and a group of cattlemen says it's time to control their own destiny.
And that'll be the main hallway that you can walk the length of the building.
Transparency is built into the walls of sustainable beef. The $300 million packing plant will have windows so tours can see how beef is produced at a plant founded by ranchers.
We really are using a co-op model where as producers we're doing something together we can't do by ourselves, and we will share the profits back to our producers, and we think that's really the co-op model is really good.
So that's how the market is supposed to work.
Senator Deb Fisher says instead of complaining about a monopoly in the market, these ranchers had a different vision.
I just thought, he's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. But wow, what a huge investment for the state, for this area.
1 year after breaking ground, hundreds of precast panels are in place. They've moved 50,000 semi-loads of dirt to build the site up 13 feet and driven pilings down 40 feet. For all you see outside, much of the investments will be within these walls.
Half the cost of the project is equipment inside the plant. We'll see rapid growth here as the walls go up.
CEO David Briggs says North Platte welcomed them with open arms.
It's almost like this project's like it was meant to be as things fell together.
They're planning on 800 employees processing 1,500 head of cattle a day, shipping beef to Walmart stores across the country, bringing dollars back to the heart of the beef state.
Well, the livestock industry in Nebraska is the economic engine.
Right in the middle of Sand Hills, where some of the best cow-calf operators are.
The plant's scheduled to be open by the summer of 2025. Reporting in North Platte, I'm Steve White.
Our thanks to Steve White and NTV for that update. Up next, going nuts in Tennessee, the latest on efforts to grow peanuts in the volunteer state in the country. Peanuts are a crop we may start seeing more of in Tennessee fields. Researchers with the University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture are growing experimental peanuts with the thought this could be a new business venture for farmers there. Charles Denny has more on the state's strong case for peanut production.
Not working for peanuts, but working with peanuts. Crop specialists at the UT Ag Research Center in Jackson grew this experimental crop of several varieties. When you yank the plants out of the ground, the nut is the fruit below the surface.
Your biggest acreage of peanuts are runners, and so that's what we've got mostly in this field, and the runners go to peanut butter and peanut oils for cooking oils. But we also have in this field Valencias, we've got Virginias, and those peanuts are more of your roasting peanuts and your ballpark peanuts, those bigger gourmet peanuts in the shell.
Every state that borders Tennessee, east, west, and especially south, is a big peanut producer. And Georgia grows more peanuts than all other states combined. Experts believe peanuts could work well in Tennessee because we have similar growing conditions to those other southern states. Haywood County farmer Dale Springfield has 70 acres of peanuts, giving this crop a try for the first time.
I was at a meeting in Starkville and talking to other producers down there that was having good luck with it, and started looking into it. The more I looked, the more I got interested in it, and thought it'd be worth trying.
One factor to be considered in peanut production, the land where you plant. Much of Tennessee is in no-till agriculture, where crops are grown on the residue of past fields. That won't work for peanuts. Soil must be tilled for this crop, and flatter land is preferable because of the potential for soil erosion.
These soils are highly erodible, and a crop like peanuts is going to be difficult to manage if we try to run it across a rolling landscape. This needs to be properly placed on a low-lying area.
That said, Tyson Raper believes Tennessee has plenty of acreage where peanuts would work. Meantime, nothing nutty about this experiment. Pending peanuts. A mid to late October harvest date coming to this field with growing research that this could be a big part of our state's future agriculture. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. Now, USDA says America produced roughly 5 billion pounds of peanuts last year, with Georgia growing roughly half of that. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay and Clinton Griffiths, have a great day.